At no level of basketball could this ever be a technical foul on Kelsey Mitchell. Oh, Asia Wilson's on the court. That changes everything. So if Asia Wilson fouls you on a layup, you're going to get a technical.
The Las Vegas Aces began aggressively, but lacked solid basketball. Flying elbows, dramatic falls, ignored fouls, all present. They believed physicality would shake Indiana, yet the Fever remained unfazed. Asia Wilson's every push, every cheap attempt to slow them was met with tenacity, speed, and a counter. As Kelsey Mitchell sank critical shots, quieting the arena, it transcended mere scoring. It was retribution. This evening sought more than just a victory. It aimed to expose Vegas's questionable strategy and reflect their arrogance. You'll want Kelsey Mitchell's post-game thoughts on the Indiana Fever being targeted by Wilson's antics. Share your opinions on Asia Wilson and WNBA officiating below. Let's get to it.
This was supposed to be a night all about Asia Wilson's legacy. She made history before the ball even tipped, but the game that followed reminded the Aces how tough this playoff run will be.
The Indiana Fever have pulled off the upset, the 6th seed.
And Asia Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces lose Game 1 on their home court to the Indiana Fever, 89-73. The Indiana Fever were in control of this game from start to finish. There was a small little patch there in the third quarter. We started saying, are the Aces gonna come back? But Kelsey Mitchell and Odyssey Sims said, no, they're not going to come back. Not at all.
Translation: this game was supposed to be a beatdown.
Just hours before tip-off, the Vegas spotlight shone solely on Asia Wilson as she accepted her MVP hardware. The venue was set for triumph, celebrating dominance and affirming their league supremacy. However, by the final buzzer, that gleaming award seemed more like a distraction than a crown. The pivotal moment intended to solidify the Aces' mystique instead heralded their downfall. From the initial quarter, their assumed easy success proved anything but simple. Not at all. Media chatter had already dictated the pregame story. Vegas was deemed invincible, but undeniable favorite, and Indiana merely background. Analysts disregarded the Fever as insignificant, citing injuries that decimated their roster. Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson were sidelined alongside other key names. 6 players out. Most pundits treated the matchup as a mere formality. Vegas boasted pedigree, championships, and the supposed real Aces' confidence. Indiana allegedly didn't belong. Becky Hammon herself fueled this hubris, telling reporters Indiana hadn't yet faced the true Aces. In essence, this game was expected to be a rout. But here's the crucial point. While Vegas reveled in its self-generated hype, the Fever were silently overlooked. Commentators scarcely mentioned them beyond their name on the score sheet. This perceived disrespect became Indiana's greatest asset. When expectations are non-existent, pressure vanishes. You play unburdened, and from the opening tip, that liberated style was evident throughout the court.
You actually just referenced it twice. It is Indiana. Dropped 2 of the 3 games to them this year, but you haven't seen them since late July. What excites you about that matchup?
That they haven't seen the real Aces yet. They caught us when we were a bit in turmoil. Not only that, they whooped us one of those stretches. So, you know what? We'll buckle in, hone in where we can, and take care of business. Like we died on screens. You have to have second and third efforts. Even if you know you might be beat, you still have to try hard to get back into the play. And I don't think we tried hard in that category.
Indiana didn't falter. They accelerated the pace, moved the ball crisply, and appeared sharper than the supposedly invincible 2-time champions. The Aces, despite their outwardly confident demeanor, seemed uninspired. They were the ones hesitating, the ones second-guessing themselves. Suddenly, the burden of expectation wasn't on Indiana. It fell squarely on Vegas, the team with championships, the team assured an easy win, now confronting an opponent that refused to yield. It's remarkable how quickly confidence turns to apprehension when the underdog refuses to break. By night's end, the headlines had reversed. Here's the compelling statistic. In a best-of-5 series, 72% of teams securing Game 1 ultimately win the series. That upset was more than just a victory. It was a profound shift, and it unfolded in the Aces' own venue.
Money Mitch, put him in a ditch! Who on the Las Vegas Aces is going to try to stop Kelsey Mitchell? Because from what I just saw, they had no answer for her. Kirsten Bell, line right up, smacked. Jackie Young, step right up, torched. Chelsea Gray, torched. Jewel Lloyd, torched. Nobody could hang with Kelsey Mitchell as she goes off.
And she still rose up to drill shot after shot. Every bucket screamed the same message. Vegas could win the side scuffles, but Mitchell was winning the game. For all the MVP hardware sitting on the Aces shelf, not a single one of their stars came close to the night she had.
That time, keeping the pivot foot alive and going strong side for Wilson.
Mitchell this time finds a lane to the basket. Inside to Turner. Nice look from Mitchell, which follows 5 Eastern time on ESPN. Mitchell. Lot of arc on that and a couple of bounces.
The crucial moment was Indiana's steadfast refusal to surrender. Once the Fever demonstrated their resolve, Vegas abandoned fair play, resorting to a more unsportsmanlike approach. The shift was starkly visible. The Aces ceased trusting their offensive plays, stopped their fluid movement, and instead opted for pushing, arguing, and taking illicit shortcuts. What began as a celebratory coronation devolved into chaos. A'ja Wilson spearheaded this breakdown. Rather than showcasing skill, she dictated the game's tone with elbows and exaggerated reactions. She threw forearms off ball, wedged herself against Fever players after whistles, and shoved during transitions where defense wasn't even relevant. Her flopping was even more humiliating, collapsing to the floor as if struck by a vehicle, while slow-motion replays revealed minimal contact. At one instance, she literally hooked an opponent's arm, pulled herself down, and feigned injury. These weren't assertive plays, they were desperate tactics from a star losing control. Her teammates quickly emulated her behavior. Jackie Young hurled her hips like a linebacker during screens. Off-ball defenders leaned shoulders and elbows into Fever players who couldn't anticipate the blows. All presented under the guise of physical play. The objective was clear: disrupt Indiana's flow, degrade the game into a chaotic mess. However, instead of unsettling the Fever, it galvanized them.
Good anticipation there by Brianna Turner. She's been on a couple WNBA all defensive teams, and she has really been key for them on that end of the floor in these playoffs.
Sims, yet again.
That's a tough matchup.
Which follows 5 Eastern time on ESPN. Mitchell. Lot of arc on that and a couple in the regular season in Asia. In the entire league. And Sims, they gave her just that space and she took it.
Becky Hammon even fueled the arrogance herself, reminding the media that Indiana hadn't seen the true Aces yet.
Layup after layup after layup. They want to talk about Caitlin Clark missing a three-pointer from half court while she got people falling into her legs.
Disrupt Indiana's rhythm, grind the game into something messy. But instead of rattling the Fever, it energized them.
But on the court, the Fever crashed the party. Kelsey Mitchell dropped a playoff career-high 34 points to...
Indiana is driving it. You could see the shift clearly. The Aces stopped trusting their sets, stopped playing their flowing offense, and instead resorted to pushing, jawing, and dictating her defense had been. The bruises she took, the shoves she endured, the dives on the floor, those didn't just inspire her team, they silenced a star Vegas had counted on. Indiana didn't just withstand the Aces' attempt to turn basketball into a brawl. They outclassed them. They absorbed every dirty tactic and left with composure intact and victory in hand. But the most crushing blow wasn't Mitchell's daggers or Sims's steadiness. It came from Aaliyah Boston, who took the league's MVP and reduced her to frustration personified. The irony couldn't have been sharper. Hours earlier, Aja Wilson held the MVP trophy in front of a roaring home crowd. But once the game tipped, that crown weighed heavy. Every time Wilson tried to post up, Boston was there first, locking position and forcing collisions. Each shot attempt was smothered. Every drop step turned into a battle of strength. Wilson didn't just miss, she struggled. 6 makes on 22 attempts. That's not dominance, that's frustration.
They don't want to talk about it. Yeah, her missing game, 6 for 22.
And it wasn't just Boston. Turner and Howard
tipped by Sims, so 9 seconds to shoot.
Hull's done a nice job on Jackie Young early in this game. Jackie likes to go north to south. She's made her play east to west, has not given her an angle to the bucket or to the rim.
And that was one of the things that was talked about, to make Jackie move laterally. She's so dangerous. We gotta hurry. Chelsea gets it inside to Young. Rebound by Howard.
And no one exemplified that fight more than Kelsey Mitchell. She didn't just respond to the Aces' antics, she punished them. Her 34-point masterpiece was a masterclass in composure. Regardless of the contact she absorbed, she dissected the defense with daring drives and ice-cold jumpers. Vegas could jaw it in her face, bump her on screens, even shove her after whistles, and she still rose to drain shot after shot. Every basket screamed the same message. Vegas might win the minor scuffles, but Mitchell was winning the game. Despite all the MVP accolades on the Aces trophy shelf, none of their stars came close to her performance that night. Mitchell, a lot of arc on that and a couple of bounces. She wasn't shouldering the burden alone either. Odyssey Sims performed as if she'd been awaiting this stage for years. Every drive was fearless. Every defensive stand was disruptive. But beyond the statistics, her leadership truly shone. She deliberately slowed possessions when Vegas attempted to lure the Fever into disarray, then accelerated the pace at opportune moments to exploit the Aces' defense. Her presence provided the stabilizing influence that made Indiana appear like the season playoff team, while Vegas, the two-time champions, seemed to be the group buckling under pressure.
Hadn't just stolen a win, they had stolen the narrative. And when Kelsey Mitchell finally spoke, battered but unbowed, her words said it all.
Team may have unbelievable guards, so you have to respect who they are, unbelievable PG, and so we know what they bring to the table as far as their resume and everything they've done throughout the course of the season, and you have to respect that. And you just hope that, 50-50, it follow a certain way, and you like to think that, your effort and your ability to show up and just compete can, make you have a win.
Then Sims, they granted her that brief opening, and she seized it. Natasha Howard and Brianna Turner were equally critical in the paint. Against Wilson and the rest of Vegas's bigs, they didn't flinch. They held their ground, rotated with precision, making every post-up a fierce contest. It wasn't about flashy blocks or spectacular plays. It was about dismantling comfort zones. Aces, accustomed to easy interior scoring, suddenly found themselves slogging through mud. Every possession became a strenuous effort, and the more Vegas forced the issue, the more ragged their offense appeared. And then there was Lexi Hull. She might not have scored 30 points, but her influence was undeniable. Tasked with relentlessly guarding Jackie Young, she delivered a defensive clinic. Every shot Young attempted was challenged. Every cut met with resistance. Every possession was an exhausting endeavor. Hull's impressive pod 24 plus-minus wasn't just a number, it was proof of her stifling defense. The bumps she took, the shoves she endured, the dives on the floor, these didn't just galvanize her team. They silenced a star Vegas had relied upon.
We've got to keep the main thing, and that is us playing to a standard of basketball that we want to have as an Indiana Fever organization and franchise. We've got to keep our layers, the outside, the people in our building, and the people in our locker room. And the thing I'm just so proud of with this group is it doesn't matter who's on the floor, it doesn't matter who's on our roster. They give each other the freedom to be themselves. They empower one another to be themselves and to be the best version of themselves. And every time we've had a change, every time we've brought someone in, every time we've had rotational changes, they're for each other. They live the we over the me. And when you have that, it just gives you opportunities to do really special things.
Indiana didn't merely absorb the Aces' attempt to turn basketball into a street brawl. They distinctly outplayed them. They withstood every questionable tactic, maintaining their composure and securing a decisive victory. But the most impactful blow wasn't Mitchell's clutch shots or Sims's steady hand. It originated from Aaliyah Boston, who effectively neutralized the league's MVP, reducing her to pure frustration. The irony was incredibly sharp. Hours prior, A'ja Wilson proudly displayed her MVP trophy before a roaring home crowd. Yet, once the game commenced, that accolade became a heavy burden. Every time Wilson tried to establish post position, Boston was there first, securing her spot and initiating contact. Each shot attempt was stifled. Every drop step transformed into a sheer test of strength. Wilson didn't just miss, she genuinely struggled, converting only 6 of 22 attempts. That signifies frustration, not dominance. And it wasn't solely Boston. Turner and Howard joined forces, forming a disciplined defensive wall that suffocated the Aces superstar. Instead of smooth spins and easy finishes, Wilson was left to heave contested fadeaways and desperately plead with officials for fouls. Replay after replay corroborated the same narrative. Indiana's defense was perfectly prepared, and Wilson had no viable responses. The divergence between the star players couldn't have been clearer. Boston exuded calm, executing the game plan without panic, adhering to her fundamental skills. Wilson, conversely, disintegrated. She argued with referees, exaggerated contact, and forced ill-advised shots. One player personified a leader, ready for the big moment. The other resembled someone who had absorbed too many flattering headlines about her own purported greatness. Even Becky Hammon, usually astute with adjustments, seemed flustered. Rather than acknowledging Indiana's superior execution, she dismissed the loss as simply missed opportunities. She didn't dare concede the truth that Boston had unequivocally outplayed her MVP. That refusal to recognize the obvious only reinforced the perception that Indiana had indeed exposed the champions. The poetic justice was almost too perfect. Wilson received the league's highest honor in the afternoon, only to be humbled that very evening. And as she dejectedly exited her home court, it wasn't MVP chants echoing, but the joyous celebration of a Fever team that had completely reversed the script. Inside the Indiana locker room, the atmosphere was electric. They hadn't merely snatched a win, they had seized control of the narrative. And when Kelsey Mitchell finally spoke, bruised but undaunted, her words encapsulated everything. Just one game in, the odds already favor them. In best-of-5 series, 72% of Game 1 victors advance. This statistic isn't a guarantee, but it serves as a clear path, and currently, Indiana is charting that course. For the Aces, the humiliation ran deep. They had claimed victory in 18 of their last 19 games. Leading into this clash, they possessed confidence, momentum, and home court advantage. But all of that crumbled in a single night. Their MVP was contained, their offense struggled, and their perceived invincibility vanished.
They'll slow the pace, test Indiana's discipline, and lean on their experience. But the pressure is no longer on the Fever. It's all on Vegas. Indiana, meanwhile, is loose. They've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Stephanie White has them believing, and that belief is contagious. The veterans are steady, the young stars are fearless, and even the injured players on the bench are acting like extra coaches, fueling the energy. The Fever don't look like a team hoping to survive. They look like a team ready to rewrite the league's script.
How you feel about the performance, the urgency, and the response you had when they made a couple runs late?
Yeah, I feel good. I mean, our group has seen it all. We wanted to come in and be the aggressor right away to make sure that we were dictating on the defensive end and we were dictating from a pace standpoint. They're champions for a reason. We knew that they were going to make runs. They made a big one in the third and we responded with a big one. I'm proud of our team. It's one game, it's a long series, so we got to keep the main thing, but to come in here and to be able to steal this one was big for us.
The symbolism of the night is impossible to miss. On the same day,
now they face Game 2, fully aware that another home loss would signify the unimaginable, traveling to Indianapolis with elimination looming. To be clear, Vegas must make adjustments. They'll likely try to defend Mitchell more intensely, perhaps assign Jackie Young to her closely to prevent her from catching fire again. They'll aim to get Wilson the ball in easier scoring positions, nearer the basket. They'll slow the tempo, test Indiana's discipline, and rely on their championship experience. Yet, the pressure is no longer on the Fever. Fever, it's entirely on Vegas. Indiana, meanwhile, is relaxed. They have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Stephanie White has instilled belief, and that confidence is infectious. The veterans are composed, the young stars are audacious, and even the injured players on the bench are acting like additional coaches, fueling the team's energy. The Fever don't resemble a team merely hoping to survive. They look like a team poised to redefine the league's narrative. The symbolism of the evening is undeniable. On the very day A'ja Wilson was honored as the WNBA's face, she was humbled before her own supporters. And on that same night, Indiana, the team widely dismissed, secured their first semifinal victory in over a decade. It wasn't merely an upset, it signaled a changing of the guard. History favors the audacious. Game 1 was no fluke. It was a clear strategy. A team with nothing to lose playing freely, intelligently, and cohesively just demonstrated they can compete head-to-head with the two-time champions. If they replicate this in Game 2, Vegas will confront a collapse so severe no MVP trophy could obscure it. The Fever didn't just win a game, they seized the Aces' confidence, their home court advantage, and their aura of invincibility. And now, the question isn't whether Indiana belongs, it's whether Vegas has enough left to endure. Share your thoughts on A'ja Wilson and the WNBA officials below. Like, subscribe, and activate all notifications so you don't miss out. Click the video on your screen and we'll catch you in the next one.